Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. This is Jonathan of Evigilans. I am joined today by IT and Warspirit.
Hello.
It's a good beginning to our show tonight. We're on schedule, pretty much right on time. Even a little bit earlier. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
5 minutes early.
we're about
Wow.
5 minutes early. It's really good. So welcome, everybody who's listening. It's a pleasure to have you. So today we're opening up on Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. So the theme of this episode, just to begin, is to kind of give tribute to something which everyone on the show here holds very dear, which is the greatest love story ever told. And that, that's how the Son of God came down and saved us, He gave us salvation through His blood. And as the Bible says, greater love hath no man than to give his life for a friend. And that's, that's something we hold dear. It's like, we're all friends here, So, thank you, Lord, for bringing us here tonight. Please just let this show uplift you, Lord, and praise be and glory be to you. Thank you for bringing us all here safely, and let us travel safely when we go home tonight. Lord, I pray for the virus that has come down from China. I pray for the people in China, Lord, that you protect them and that you give them truth, that your light shines through this disaster. Lord, I pray for clarity in all that we talk about. I pray for honesty. Lord, I pray for just your everlasting love to pour out on us tonight. Lord, let your Spirit take hold of this show. In your glorious name, Lord, amen.
Amen.
So we open up, as I was saying, with the greatest love story ever told. And it's something that everyone has heard, whether they believe or not, and to me, whether you believe or not, to me, it's just very important of a tale, because I think everyone could use that uplift. It's someone loves you enough that they died for you. And, whether you believe it or not, it's still a very lovely thing to hear and say, And that's what I'm kind of hoping for our listeners tonight. It's just, be blessed. And, all your worries and all that, just give it to God. That's something I'm having to deal with a lot all the time, especially in a climate right now, because, I even mentioned it in our prayer that there's just so much going on and so much fear in the world, and it's abundant and ever-growing at an alarming pace. So, we got viruses, we got wars, we got rumors of wars, we've got... there's nothing out there that's not going on right now.
Right.
All the way down to this awful reality that, we are potentially ruled by a bunch of high-class pedophiles. It's pretty scary.
Mm-hmm.
That's right there alone. It's what about my kids? What about my future and their future? And what can we do to change this?
Right.
They're all powerful and all this other stuff. Not to sound like Alex Jones going off the deep end or anything, but there's a lot of stuff, even in just the true top of the iceberg level stuff, that's just scary.
Right.
So, anyways, on that, something we did want to talk about was a good friend of the people. As you understand, Rush Limbaugh, you might know him. He started this show back in, the 70s, 80s?
It was a late 80s, 89, I think, was the first show.
Oh, okay, so it was 1989. Either way, really long time. Rush Limbaugh started his own show, and he is kind of I got this idea from listening to Rush Limbaugh, this whole show idea, and Rush Limbaugh sadly has come out to the public and has informed us that he is suffering from late-stage lung cancer?
Late-stage lung cancer, yeah.
Which I do find it tragic, but I also find it kind of funny because I do hear Juul advertisements on that radio a lot, but... Anyways, despite that, what's really funny, sorry, I got a habit of saying funny. What's really important that I get this across, it's just, I'd like to kind of thank Rush Limbaugh, I doubt he'll ever hear this or anything, but, and a lot of things I probably wouldn't agree with him on, and a lot of things are just kind of up there, but, even as a kid, when I'd be out working with my dad in the oil field, he would be talking about, politics, and he'd turn on Rush Limbaugh, and it was just there for the whole time we were working, you could listen to Rush Limbaugh, and it was just something like, between me and my dad, and it was like just this familiar voice on the radio. And to hear that very well is ending very soon it's kind of a, like you said, you are very heartbroken. And me, stuff happens, and he is an older fella.
Yeah, he's 69.
Yeah. Nice. But he's lived a life, and I give him that, and I think he's kind of done his job.
He's inspired. I mean, well, think about it. He's inspired a new generation of people to start.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, so, and that's... I had a very similar upbringing with Drush as you did, John. I remember being out in the field with my dad as a very, very young kid. And my dad's a pumper, or was a pumper. He actually manages pumpers now, but and so it was always what was that? Oh, never mind. At lunchtime, we'd always sit down, eat our lunch, and we'd turn on Rush. And so from literally 5 years old, on and off, all the way up till now, I've listened to Rush Limbaugh. And so there's a phrase on the Rush Limbaugh show. He calls kids that have grown up, because he realizes that he's an old guy, but so he calls them Rush babies if they've like grown up listening to him. And I am a Rush baby.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I spent 10 years in the field, and no matter what was going on, if I was having a crappy day, I always had Rush.
Right. Someone who
and he was always uplifting. He was always funny. Some people they think he's full of himself by some of the stuff that he says, but he always talks about himself, like as far as boasting about himself, allegorically.
Right.
One of his favorite phrases is, and some people have said he's blasphemous about it, but he says it is a funny, that talent on loan from God. And he's not saying, it...
That was a really good Rush Limbaugh.
like I said, I know Rush.
Yeah.
And that's what's something that's really, really touched me and kind of made me sad. I never thought about that as I'm getting older, that there's going to come a day when there will be no more Rush Limbaugh to listen to. And it makes me sad.
Yeah, it is kind of sad to think that.
Yeah.
That generation is kind of over, too. Like, the concept of, like, I couldn't see, like, this generation actually going out, like, the younger generations going out with their father to, like, an oil job or, like, a welding job. Like, it's just kind of an abstract concept. And, I mean, and that's, to me, that's, like, for the most part, like, where my relationship with Rush was, where it's, like, it would be welding and he'd be talking about something and me and Dad would be like, yeah, you're right, Rush. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And there's other times, like, I know a guy, he said he can't stand Rush. He's on Rush's side, but he can't stand him because it's like all the stuff he talks about just makes me angry. And I get really angry, and I get that. And that's kind of any political show, even this one. Even this one, where we're talking about, like, Epstein and who killed him and everything else. You can get really angry where you're gripping your steering wheel in, like, rage, and you're going to bring that rage home with you, and, you might have already had a bad day at work. So, if you're listening to us right now, I do implore, it's like if you do have that issue where people, if it's hurting people around you, like that you're just angry because of everything, it's like take a break. I'm not saying to stop listening, I'm just saying, maybe take a break, look at it in like a sense of stoicism instead of like that kind of social justice, like I've got to do something about it right now, which, I mean, could be healthy. Right now we're peaceful people, and we're not doing any of that.
Well, and see, I always looked at it, like, with Rush and everything, like I said, is he actually, like, made me have a better day. I mean, sometimes when, like, especially during the Obama years, you would get so angry about the stupid stuff he was doing. But Rush always had a lighthearted way of making you laugh about it.
Yeah.
And he always had, so Paul Shanklin is a comedy writer for him, and he does like parodies. And so through the years, Paul Shanklin has done so many funny songs, especially through the Clinton years. Do you guys know the song Mambo No. 5?
I'm afraid not. I'm sorry.
A little bit of Monica in my
Oh,
life.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So Paul Shanklin during the Clinton years did a Clinton version of that. Bimbo number 5.
Oh no.
Yeah, a little bit of Monica in my life, a little bit of Hillary by my side. And it was hilarious.
Yeah, it is funny.
Yeah, and it was called Bimbo number 5.
Wow.
Oh, but Paul Shanklin did tons of these. He did another one with Harry Reid called the Banking Queen. Do you remember when the housing bubble popped and all that stuff?
What, 08 was it?
Yeah. And so he's like, I'm the Banking Queen. It's supposed to be like a ABBA, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So he did all kinds of stuff like that, and it was so funny to hear this on the radio. And it just made your day better.
Right. That's cool.
You know, and someone, like Rush and everything, as IT said, it's really cool because he's inspired like a generation ahead of him to get into it. Like a young man, Greg Gutfeld, on Fox News has some hilarious skits, and in that same kind of vein, he himself is like a libertarian, but it's that same kind of comedy. They'll make a video, a skit, and all this stuff. And I would like to get into that myself,
right?
Because just like anybody, they have their own original take on it.
Right. We got our own original content. Steven Crowder's done a lot of stuff like that.
Right.
And, but basis is going back to it. Rush was the first.
Yeah, Rush was like the first.
I mean, so it amazes me of what he started, because before he started all this, there was no conservative voice. Back before '89, you didn't have a conservative radio show. You didn't have a conservative TV. It was all from the left's point of view.
Oh, how much has changed? Just kidding.
Yeah.
But, yeah. At least we have Fox News and stuff like that. But
yeah.
Even that, it's whatever. But Rush was like genuine from the start.
He was the first. And like you said, I haven't always agreed with everything that Rush has said or done. Like, I'm actually consider myself a little bit more conservative than Rush has been in the past on some stuff. Mm-hmm. But I respect the man. Mm-hmm. And it's a great story of how he started. He started doing a radio show. He started as a disc jockey.
Yeah.
Doing different stuff in California, music and stuff. And he talked them into letting him do like a 15-minute montage every day. Well, he was a conservative in California. So and even then, in the 80s, that was not tolerated. So he actually got fired from this radio show from saying his views. And it really messed him up for a while and discouraged him. He went to he did announcement stuff, worked for baseball team. What's the baseball team in LA?
LA Lakers? No,
that's basketball.
Yeah, I can't.
Orioles?
Remember.
I don't.
Anyways, he worked for a baseball team for a while. He did that. But then that's when he worked up enough courage again to get back on the radio after a little bit, and that's when he started in '89 his first show, the Rush Limbaugh Show, and it just blew up because
I wonder how different it sounds compared to these days. I'd like to actually check that out.
Yeah, you can hear some of the montage stuff on YouTube. I found it.
Yeah, that'd be really neat.
Yeah,
baseball, is it the Angels? Los Angeles Angels.
Angels. Yeah, I think it was the Angels.
They have the Dodgers, the Angels, Oakland Athletes. So I think it's the Angels.
Yeah,
I think it is. I'm not. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is one of those. It didn't really matter, but it's so cool about how he came from not having anything. He was just like me or you. We're poor guys. We're not rich.
Yeah,
and he was the same way. And he was able to make this conglomerate radio station to where he owns his own private jet now.
Yeah,
he owns a huge house in Florida. He does well for himself, and that's the American dream.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you start from nothing, and it's like the snowball effect of
all from just saying your opinion every day, 3 hours a day on the radio.
Right, and that's he's the perfect image for what he preaches on capitalism and the American dream in that respect, because it's and he provides something. And it is a little bit comforting, especially I can imagine. Like, the show blows up in 1989. Like you're saying, there's really no conservative radios and all that around. And he comes on, and it would be comforting. It's like, hey, in a world so tainted with the other mindset, you have this. And it's like, I agree with you. And we're going to get together, and we're going to start talking about this to the world. Whether they like it or not, they're going to hear us.
And he knew that, because he had this mindset of stuff, so he thought, there's got to be other people out there that think like I do.
Yeah.
But at that time, they didn't have a voice. Mm-hmm. And so in his mind, and still, he was their voice. Mm-hmm. And that's why people glommed onto him, other conservatives. It's like, wow, finally, somebody's saying the same things that I'm thinking.
Right.
And that was to borrow a phrase from Donald Trump, huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
Right. Which you got that invitation letter from Donald Trump the other day.
Oh, that was hilarious, man. Yeah. I was like, what is this? It ended up being some stupid survey
consensus.
Thing.
Yeah.
Wanting money and stuff, which is cool. I've donated money to Trump before.
Right.
But I was just saying, I was telling John here. Hey, Mr. President Trump, if you ever hear this, we would love to have you on our podcast.
Yeah, like we're on your side.
We have an open invitation for you, sir. We will shine you in a great light. We're big fans.
And that is kind of just shouting at the dark, but I mean, he is. Who knows? Maybe I need to tweet at him and be like, "Hey, listen to us," even though we've talked crap about your bump stock ban. And
we do have a problem with your bump stock ban there, sir. That
maybe we can talk about it.
Yeah, come on, please tell us your side of it. Mm-hmm.
Maybe someday.
Yeah,
maybe someday. But as it stands in the world right now, and Rush Limbaugh, you have my greatest respects.
Yep. Thank you, Rush.
Yeah, thank you, Rush. We'll be joining you in heaven if you do pass away on us, that's for sure. So, the next thing right now, speaking of joining folks in heaven, we have the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently.
They've been 14 of them, either I don't know, they all in heaven.
Yeah, it's kind of hard telling, but that's not for me
to
judge.
But there's 1,400 of them dead.
Yeah, there's 1,400 casualties, all in China. But one was an American citizen that was visiting.
So, there was 2 deaths outside of China. One is Hong Kong, one is the Philippines. Bad. The rest of them were all in China.
Right.
And one of those was a 60-year-old woman that had been working in the medical field in China. And she contracted the virus, and she died this week.
It's very tragic.
15 in the United States now have been contracted with the disease.
Right.
There are 200 people in Georgia right now that are still in quarantine, that they're not for sure if they have it.
Right. Well, the big thing with that now is the
latency.
The CDC, they don't release tests to hospitals.
Yeah.
So for you to test someone if they have it, you have to bottle up samples and send it to the CDC. And then whenever they can get the other 100 or 1,000 or so samples done, they'll get to you and send it back. It's really counterintuitive, but there's no surefire way to have an easy way to detect, it's the flu. You know what I mean? There's no way for somebody like a pathologist right now to get under a microscope and say, you have it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
and what John was saying earlier, just right now with the latency period's changed.
Really?
Before it was 14 days. Mm-hmm. Now they decided it's 24.
Really?
And I actually got that information from a lady that works at San Juan Regional.
Really?
And so they've finally all started changing some of these the quarantines.
Yeah.
In fact, in California, they did it for a month now.
Exactly.
They decided for a month. Yeah, and so people are kind of ticked off that are having to be quarantined.
Yeah.
But they literally do not know if you're going to have it for 24 days. There was a lady that got discharged because she was there for 2 weeks.
She got it.
And she still had it.
Then she contracted it and came back, and they're like, what the heck? She was 2.5 weeks out. Mm-hmm. She shouldn't have had it. She wouldn't sign those signs.
So, as I was talking about with different people, that's a scary fact. Because, right now it's 15, But how many of those, these are just people who have shown symptoms of sickness, really.
Yeah, like I said, there's 200 right now in Georgia that are quarantined. We don't know how many have it right there.
Right. And that alone it's and people who are outside of that, who just may have walked by a cloud of someone coughing, who had no idea that it was an unusual cough.
And with that long of a latency period, it's going to make the peak of contraction that much higher.
Right.
Because now, say I give it, I have it, I'm starting to get sick, I give it to you, now you wait for a month, you're going around talking to everybody, doing your thing, and you're giving it to everybody, and they got another month. It's scary.
A vicious cycle.
Yeah. It's worrisome for that very reason. A month is a long time. I thought 2 weeks was bad enough.
Yeah.
Now you have between 3 to 4 weeks, and in this 3 to 4 weeks, you don't even know that you're sick and need to stay inside and quarantine yourself. You don't even know until it's hits you, and at that point, and then all those other people, they don't know they have it, and they go doing their thing, and that's why this virus is so suspicious, to say the least. Everything about this, and I didn't really hit on that last show. I mean, it was kind of a suspicion, but now it's kind of a growing.
Now it's a growing. It's becoming more than a suspicion.
Yeah, that this thing is a man-made, bioengineered virus. Now, what do I have to prove that? I don't know. What do we have to prove that the death toll really is just 1,400? It's China.
Yeah.
We don't know.
And that's something I was talking to John about. Everybody is, and I've been trying to keep it low key on this and not be the one not be freaking out about it. But it is a communist country, and going back to what John loves to talk about. What do you love to talk about? The Russians.
I can't remember right now.
You can't remember?
No, and that's what I was saying, Chernobyl. You look at the theme of Chernobyl was cover up and deny.
Yeah.
Deny.
And that's what the Chinese are doing right now.
Exactly. And, all the way down, right now, it's proven. I need to look up the sources. You can find it on Google. I would like to know how come that these, factories that used to produce, medical masks in China are instead being told to produce body bags. Not just thousands, for the 1,000 people who have died. Millions. Yeah. Millions of body bags. That's immediately shooting up a red flag for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about the Chinese Communist flag. I'm talking about some creepy stuff here. Why in God's name is the government seizing private property to make, 1, crematoriums, and 2, body bag making foundations?
Yeah.
That right there kind of is it would be during Chernobyl, it's they shut down the factory that's making normal pharmaceuticals to all start processing iodine.
Right.
It'd be well, wait a minute, I thought it was only 3.6 Roentgens. No, it's not. It's bad. So, this is exactly, it's a perfect equation because, just like the Soviet Union, just like modern day China or North Korea, they don't want their image to be hurt because that's all they have.
Right.
That's, as the government stands, it's that's the only reason it does stand.
Right.
Is for that slight little bit of patriotism that they can milk out of their people. And trust me, that is a skinny cow right now, especially in this midst of this virus, that they just keep milking these people. And it's getting to the point, I really do think this virus might cause a shift. And that might be a spiritual related thing. I'm not going to claim that. But this might cause a shift to the point where China is in absolute chaos.
Yeah.
If it's bad enough. And maybe even if it's not bad enough. But the simple, scary thing, people are scared over there.
Yeah.
And people over here, for lack of better terms, I'm not going to say you don't need to be, be weary, just keep your eyes on it. But over there,
watch it.
That's in their home, and over there, if it comes out that, hey, millions of body bags are being produced, I doubt they've heard that.
Yeah.
That would probably cause a bit of a, well, wait a minute, something's wrong here. And just like in the Ukraine, when Chernobyl happened, people will just start getting in their cars and doing everything they can to escape to the hills.
Right.
To get away from it.
And with this, that's going to be really bad. Because now you're moving it.
Exactly. And I mean, just like then. But no, it's not that bad because, the glorious, Republic of Socialist Chinese, peoples cannot get sick and, that sort of thing. And it's like, wait a minute. That you're just hearing the same repeat. There's nothing new under the sun, Ecclesiastes 1. And just how bad this is a mystery. But there's a new video every day of some stuff that I would not normally see unless it was something really bad.
Yeah.
Like for that same reason that we have it under control in Chernobyl, right? Like they had to in his
house.
Yeah, like they had to admit they were, it leaked, and they had to admit, and that's all they did for the Universal Forum, right?
Yeah.
They admitted that there's been an outbreak, and that's all they are morally obligated to do under the United Nations standards, right? So that's all they're gonna do, and it's just gonna be this underline. Like for Chinese people, I'm sure that the media has lied to them, and and just kind of downplayed it. Like if you look at the old Chernobyl broadcast, there was one little segment that's 15 seconds long. We've had an accident, and that's probably the same thing over there. There's been an outbreak. Continue your work.
It's okay.
Yeah. Continue your work. Keep your mind focused on your work. Wear a mask.
Well, I do know that they do have a strict quarantine over there in all of Wuhan and stuff. So a friend of mine, his daughter actually teaches English online and actually teaches it to Chinese kids online.
Right.
And she used to have to do it in the middle of the night. Because over there it's day.
Right.
Right.
And now that they're under quarantine, she does it in the evening.
Interesting.
So people are staying
because they're there. Yeah. They're staying inside.
Right.
And so what she's gotten, the information she's gotten is that these families have been locked in their houses for several weeks now, and the government comes by every now and then and gives them food.
Right.
But they're just in their homes. Yeah. And then we watched that one video where they were literally chaining this guy's door and installing bars on his windows, and he's like, well, what if I have a fire? And this government official from China was like, well, I suggest you don't have any fire or something.
That's literally it.
Yeah.
He was like, well, then don't have fires.
Yeah. And he's like, well, what if we do have one? Well, we'll get them over here as soon as we can. We'll have a key around here somewhere. What? That's literally what he said. We'll have a key around here somewhere.
I can guarantee you they're like, oh, fire, good, that'll clean it out.
Yeah.
That's all they're going to see. But also kind of take note here, maybe there's been an underground movement that they're trying to quell.
Yeah, I mean, think about even the protests that are going on recently. I mean, they could be trying to stifle that.
Yeah, the Hong Kong
that was
stuff.
another theory, is that they originally had maybe manufactured this for Hong Kong, and it got out before they were ready to disperse it.
Right.
And if that's if that's so, they screwed up.
If that's true.
Yeah.
And something that was a huge morale boost to me is seeing Xi Jinping wearing a mask.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you're scared. You rotten dictator. You are
Winnie
scared.
the Pooh looking son of a gun.
Yeah, and but even then, the president. Or the prime minister, or the prime dictator of China wearing a mask, maybe, like you said when I was talking on the phone with you, maybe it's this is how the Chinese person should act right now in the midst of this small event.
Yeah.
But it's also, to me, that's kind of a surrender, being I'm not going out there without a mask.
I could see it both ways. I could see it I'm not going out there without a mask, but I could also see it because it is right now Chinese law that if you go out in public, you have to wear a mask.
Right.
So, I mean, it might just be okay, well, I'm being a good leader, so I'm showing what you're supposed to do.
Right.
So, I don't know on that.
We got company? Yes,
yeah.
we do. So, anyways, so that's kind of the big thing here. We reached 1,400 casualties.
Yeah.
Which is a growing number every day, and that's what I was saying. It's gonna be 100 every day, and we're at that point now, and it's getting maybe to the point where it's gonna be 200 every day, or 300. Then, and it's just that 1 piece of rice, 2 piece of rice, 4 piece of rice, 8 piece of rice. That whole
it's exponential
mentality, And not to use rice as like a metaphor for anything, but like that's an actual concept. And 46,000.
46,000 ill right now.
That's a very scary concept.
A good like 38,000 or so are in China, and the rest are in more like
other countries. Yeah.
Right now in America, 15 you said, right?
Yeah, there was 120 in a cruise ship that ended up like 30 or 40 of them off the coast of Japan that got it. And they were like just moored out for forever and a day off the coast of Japan. They finally just let them go.
Right, that sort of thing. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to call a break right now. We have some folks that are going to come visit us for a moment. So stay tuned. We have the Democrat debate. We have the Biden versus the rest of the Democrats going on. We also have just some kind of topics to cover later on. We'll go ahead and start that break right now. Stay tuned.
Time religion, the old time religion is good enough for me. 'Twas good for the Hebrew children, 'twas good for the Hebrew children, 'twas good for the Hebrew children, and it's good enough for me. The old time religion, the old time religion, the old time religion is good enough for me. It's good when I'm in trouble. It's good when I'm in trouble. It's good when I'm in trouble, and it's good enough for me. The old time religion, the old time religion, the old time religion is good enough for me. It's good when I am dying. It's good when I am dying. It's good when I am dying, and it's good enough for me. The old time religion, the old time religion, the old time religion is good enough for me. The old time religion, the old time religion, the old time religion is good enough for me.
Dear one, the world is waiting for the sunrise. Every rose is heavy with dew. The thrush on high is sleepy, mate is calling, and my heart is calling you. Dear one, the world is waiting for the sunrise. Every rose is heavy with dew. The thrush on high is sleepy, mate is calling, and my heart is calling The thrush on high is sleepy, mate is calling, and my heart is calling. old. Katie was a maid with hair of gold. Like an act of fate, Kate was standing at the gate, watching all the boys on dress parade. Jimmy with the girls was just a talk, stuttered every time he tried to talk. Still that night at 8, he was there at Katie's gate, stuttering to her this lovesick cry. Katie, beautiful Katie, you're the only girl that I adore. When the moon shines over the cowshed, I'll be waiting at the kitchen door.
When you hear them bells go ding-a-ling, all join round and sweetly you must sing. And when the verse is through, in the chorus all join in. There'll be a hot time in the old town tonight. There'll be a hot time in the old town tonight. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. What the heck do we care? What the heck do we care? Hail, hail, we're full of cheer. What the heck do we care now? Hail, hail, the gang's all here. What the heck do we care? What the heck do we care? Hail, hail, we're full of cheer. What the heck do we care now? When you hear them bells go ding-a-ling, all join round and sweetly you must sing. And when the verse is through, and the chorus all join in, there'll be a hot time in the old town tonight. There'll be a hot time in the old town tonight.
Alrighty, folks. Sorry about that hiatus, but we're ready to start again. Where did we leave off, fellas?
So we left off with Wuhan. We got that wrapped up.
We're coming to Sasha Marie Krause. If you'll go ahead and pull up her image. She flashed there for a minute before we started the break.
There
she is. That woman's name is Sasha Marie Krause. She was kidnapped here recently from Crouch Mesa.
Kidnapped or left.
It's hard telling, but there's plenty of evidence. There was a break-in, all this sort of stuff, and I wouldn't expect her to just throw bricks at a window and then just disappear. Like it's a little
I didn't know that was a break-in, but I there was always that thought in the back of my mind, like, what if she just didn't want to live here anymore?
Well, there's
a lot of
sufficient.
people said that, but there is sufficient evidence.
If there's like
and her car was left there. She didn't take her car. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's another thing too. If you just left, you wouldn't want to cite people to look for you.
Right.
So that's something there too. Like if she just left, she would have just left.
Right.
So this is her face right here. There's a $50,000. Is it $50,000?
There is now a $50,000 reward on anybody who has whereabouts of where she is and stuff. It's a third party person that's doing that. If you have any information on her whereabouts, please contact San Juan County Sheriff's Department, and please let's get her home. Let's get her safe.
We got to get her safe. Another thing I can't expound enough on is don't don't share false information.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. That's getting really old, and it's a really bad habit that this town and a lot of other states have.
Yeah.
But this is something that's very serious, and we want to see this person come home. Like, wouldn't that be awesome, like, tomorrow, to see them come home?
That would be awesome.
You know? So $50,000 is out there if you want to pack up your things and go for a hunt, if you have any inclination to where she might have gone. Any suspicion. Like, even if you know someone and you care about them that might have done something like this, do the morally right thing. It is always better to have that sleep easy at night. You know what I mean? So, that's just kind of a heads up. That's her face. Lord, bring her home safely. Amen. So we were resuming off of that with the village people. As funny as that is, so we had the Democrat debate, which I didn't listen to. A lot of that stuff to me, it always ends up as like, it's like watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It's just drama, and it's pointless, and all that the Democrats say or do is always like their entire platform is just how much they don't like Trump. Like, I went through a website to website of all their fundraisers, and their headline post, like their headline thing to get you to donate is, we're going to beat Trump. Yeah. Which, that's it. They're all the same. And, I mean, to different levels, because like you said, you have a homosexual Navy guy, you got a fake Indian, and a communist. Mm-hmm. And then, as you joked, does that not sound like the village people?
Yeah, Joe Biden is literally being beat by the village people. Joe Biden, he's supposed to be the Democrat front runner as far as what the left wants. That's kind of been their dog in the fight, the establishment Democrats. And Joe Biden has not been doing very well. He hasn't been doing very well at all. He was beat in Iowa. He was beat in this last one. What was the last? Do you remember the last state was that was deciding the Democrat nominee?
I'm not sure, but I can look it up.
Yeah, that's fine. And either way, it's just pitter patter.
He's being beat on every one of these, and he even got beat. So he got beat by Buttigieg. Okay, Pete Buttigieg is the gay Navy guy.
Right.
Oh, what was your question?
What state were they arguing about?
Was the last that the Democrats had for deciding, because Biden's been beaten all of them.
Which is sad, because we wanted old Joe to get in there so we could talk more about him. But as funny as that is, he has still provided us with, hilarity.
He's still provided us with comedy.
Because it started off with hairy legs and how they turn blonde in the sun, and how he likes kids to rub his legs. Mm-hmm. That guy, like I was joking about, he's done so much damn adrenochrome he can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But he said, what did he say?
Okay, so let's give context here.
Yeah.
They were at a kind of a meet and greet for the Democrats, and there were some young Democrats there that were supporting him. They were his supporters, okay?
Right.
There was a young lady, and you can tell she was looking up to Joe like he was like this awesome guy, and she asked, you were beaten Iowa. What is something that you can do to reassure us that you can win after you had such horrible a horrible showing in Iowa? And he looked at her and he was like, well, have you ever been to a caucus?
Yeah, we'll actually play the clip about.
Okay, well,
yeah,
perfect.
we thought about it.
So you're arguably the candidate with the greatest advantage in this race. You've been the vice president. You weren't burdened down by the impeachment trials. In the participation. So how do you explain the performance in Iowa, and why should the voters believe that you can win the national election?
It's a good question. Number one, Iowa's a Democratic caucus. You ever been to a caucus? No, you haven't. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. It was a little bit confusing in Iowa.
He looks sick.
Number one. But let's
Like
assume
not sick as in like
everything
evil,
was
but like
exactly
sick
right
as in
in
like
Iowa.
not good
Not
in
well.
health.
The
Yeah.
idea that you
Well, I mean, he's just
come in
old.
with about half the delegates that the leaders come in with
Chromosome here.
in
He's lost a
Iowa
chromosome or
does not
something.
necessarily
Well,
say
I mean,
how
there was
you
that
do
one. There was that one where he like was talking on, I think CNN, and his eye like went bloodshot. Like,
Oh yeah, a blood vessel. Yeah,
he,
popped the
like
blood vessel.
popped.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something wrong with old Joe. It's not just that he's a pedophile, which he is. He's losing his crackers up there, and
The
it's
hamster's
showing.
starting to fall off the wheel.
Like nothing that he said made any sense. Like, I am a caucus.
I am a Democratic caucus.
Yeah, I'm a Democrat.
You ever been to a caucus? No, it shows you lying dog. I was like,
You
Yeah,
lion,
dude,
dog-faced pony
And
soldier.
that's what we're talking about. Like, this person isn't anti-Biden. This
Right.
person was
no,
like,
she's
she was
supporting him.
Yeah, she was asking a friendly question.
he's like, you're a lion, dog-faced pony soldier. Now you're gonna be honest.
I'm just gonna be honest with you. You're honest with me. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's like, what? Yeah. So Joe has lost it. He knows he's losing. In what little mind he has left, he's like grasping at straws. What? So what do you guys think? Who do you think is going to be the Democrat nominee?
As much as I regret to say it, I really do think that the communist is going to take the lead. I do
You think Bernie?
I think Bernie will. I really do.
I,
Either him or Buttigieg. But
I think Buttigieg.
I don't know. I think Bernie, but just because the simple fact that Bernie was here last time.
Yeah.
You know, just for that simple fact.
Well,
and I mean, and you know, I travel this area a lot, and I mean, if I was to base the entire country's opinions off of this area, I would say Bernie.
Well, okay, so if it has to do with the people's decision, John, I would agree with you. But I'm going over what the establishment wants.
Well, then it would
because
be Biden.
the establishment didn't want they wanted Biden.
Yeah.
But the establishment didn't want Bernie last time either. They wanted Hillary. Okay.
Right.
The reason being is because Bernie, God bless his heart, actually is an honest man. I'm not saying he's correct. I'm not saying his politics are right.
But he's an
But
honest
he is
man.
honest. He's honest about what the left is. He's honest about them being a communist.
Yeah.
And he's an open communist. Well, the left can't have that.
Right.
Because the only way the left wins and operates is through lies.
Right.
So you got to have somebody like Buttigieg or fake Indian, what's her name?
Elizabeth Warren.
Warren. So it's either going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be Buttigieg or Warren. I might be wrong on that.
Absolutely. But that's honestly just for the simple fact. I think a lot of the young people who are being able to vote because they're stupid and they want an immediate change, but they don't understand that this change would not be a good one. They want absolute, communism because, I don't know, suppose they're Marxist hired professors from the liberal arts degree college told them that or whatever else, but there's something really disturbing about the rise of pro-Marxism in this country, period. And that's, it's just something that's so abstract to like you, me, and I mean, that's just how it is. Like, we were raised in probably more right-wing than average right-wing homes, you know what I mean? And even that, like I said, I had kind of a past of looking into communism and everything else. I looked into it and I was like, well, maybe that would be a cool idea. Like, morally speaking, maybe we should have free college. Maybe we should have free healthcare. Yeah, wouldn't that be awesome?
Right.
But the problem is that it's just not viable. It's
not
not
feasible,
possible. And like the way they're saying is like everyone pays for it. That's not going to work. And there's no moral way of justifying forcing people to do anything.
Right.
And I mean, and that's kind of the problem with like the communist ideology and like what Bernie Sanders is pushing, because what they quickly find out is that once communism is established, the greatest bourgeoisie tyrant you're going to face is nature. I'm serious.
Right.
It's the simple fact that if you don't work, you don't eat.
Right.
And a lot of people have argued that, well, that is socialism. If you don't provide to the people, then you don't eat. I'm like, well, I mean, then why not be capitalist? Because that's what capitalism implies, except you're free to do what you want to do instead of what the state
you can
wants
choose
you
to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Also, so with the Democrat race right now, so the latest to drop out is Andrew Yang. He was the Oriental guy that was on.
Yeah, $1,000 a month.
$1,000 a month, man, and he was very socialist. But he actually dropped out today. He said it was kind of funny.
I thought it was like early in the week.
It was either today or yesterday. I heard on the radio.
I think it was yesterday.
But okay, early in the week was a day earlier, John. Wow.
Hey.
But anyways, so he dropped out of the race. It was funny when I heard it on the radio, but it's like they missed out on a great joke. But I guess they were trying to play it straight. But they said he did the math and then he dropped out on the race. He's an Oriental guy, math. I kind of found it funny myself.
Right. It is. Just with his last name, it is.
Yeah.
It was funny.
You know what?
Someone posted this and everything, and it went viral. Was looks like someone finally found the yin.
Yeah. You know what? Other than the $1,000 a month thing, of course, and him having lots of left views, I actually, if I was forced to vote for a Democrat,
right,
I actually kind of like the guy.
Yeah, and it's actually a lot of pages in like K communities and stuff are on that same boat. Like a lot of those pages were like Yang or nothing.
Yeah.
Which to me, it would be like voting. It would be as stupid as voting for Gary Johnson.
Yeah,
or God forbid, Vermin Supreme.
He didn't have a snowball's chance in hell.
Yeah.
But again, other than the $1,000 things, he actually did say some things that made sense.
Right.
In the Democrat debate, I listened to it. He even said, he said both sides. He said, I hear from everybody here talking about how they're going to beat Donald Trump, and that's all you guys have said. And he said, but nobody's bringing up the issues of how we're going to help the economy. He said that's the reason why the American people voted for Donald Trump is because the economy has gotten good. Right. He said under President Trump. He admitted that. Right. He said, but I have answers that are actually going to be better. And so actually I liked what he had to say because it was truth.
Yeah.
He's left, but at least it was the most truthful thing I heard the whole night.
Exactly. And that was something with Yang there that was like, well, that's like the closest thing we're going to see like to how it used to be in the day. Yeah. Even before me and you were conceived.
Way before.
Yeah, because that's what I was saying. Is like the Democrats back then and the Republicans, it was like you can invite Democrats and Republicans over for dinner and it was like a small difference.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I see. I think the sky is blue, and they'd be like, oh, I think it's turquoise.
Yeah.
And it was like, well yeah. But now it's like it's so black and white that it's like I don't want your views here. I don't want you around. And I think, just with how it is, it's like it's almost a survival instinct.
Yeah.
Where it's like these people in both sides believe this, and it's kind of a bad gridlock we've locked ourselves into. But, I could confidently say that the average extreme leftist wants to, pull up that kid screaming that he wants to slice every Republican's throat.
Yeah.
Which was like, whoa. And, to that credit, I don't really see Republicans going around saying that or having a mental breakdown pissing in a trash can. Like, have you seen this?
No,
have you seen these people?
Yeah.
They're absolutely mental. I've seen like anger, I've seen like little rage fits, maybe screaming at a camera, that sort of thing. Like even with the left, when Trump was elected, there was like 1,000 Tumblerinas, which are like, the blue-haired fat asses and that sort of thing that are like screaming at the camera like, oh my God, the Nazis are taking over! And they're just like freaking out and they're radicalizing, as, not scary as that is. But it's like this gridlock of, no one wants to listen. They just believe that it's an ultimate evil all the time. And I think it's rather odd that it's reached that gridlock because I would think most people would be like able to understand like what the basis of morality is like. And that's why I'm a right-winger because at least on the very concept of what Republicans tell people to do isn't as like tyrannical as what the leftists would tell people to do.
Yeah.
It's far less controlling, and the lesser of two evils isn't really a great thing to roll with, but in this kind of scenario, it might be a very it's all we got.
Yeah.
But again, and people will be like, well, just stop picking evils and, vote. Well, here's the thing. Republicans claim to be pro-life. And for me, that's a big deal. And that's also a big deciding factor of morality. Like, whether or not if it was consensual and everything, you should have the kid. Like, you shouldn't just butcher it. Yourself or a doctor. It's the same.
Well, and the whole argument I've heard that, just don't pick either one. The problem with that mindset is, think about you're a soldier and you're on a battlefield. And you're in a trench and you run into a Y. And you can pick the left Y or the white Y. You don't know which way the bad guys are.
Right.
Okay? But if you just stay in that one spot and you're by yourself, you're eventually going to be overrun, you're going to be killed.
Well,
so you need to make a decision. You don't know, you might not know which one the right one is.
Right.
But you need to make the most educated guess that you can and make a decision.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing as silence is conformity. And for a lot of people are willing to say it, like left or right or whatever. Like, well, the people who didn't speak out against Hitler in Germany are just as bad as the Nazis.
Yeah.
But when you say, well, you didn't really speak out against that guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, shut up, that's not me, that's not how it is.
No.
I just wanted to be neutral. I didn't want to pick the lesser of two evils. And they'll just start 1,000 excuses a minute, and it's pick a side. And I'm not saying that this is a war conflict, but war is the absolute reality of life on Earth. So have a sober, but not radical look on this. Just have a standard to set yourself upon, where it's like, what am I willing to accept and what am I going to support? And if you're not willing to support something, there's your first step.
Yeah.
And if you are willing to support something, all the same.
Right.
So are you willing to support the Second Amendment? That's a big thing. So you'd probably want to roll with the Republicans.
Right.
Are you willing to support, if you're pro-choice, well, you might want to go to the Democrat side. And for that, it's not like I'm going to be sitting there, pulling you back. It would just be kind of like, okay, well, at least I know what side you're on.
I know where you stand.
Yeah, and they know where you stand, too. It's like, and that's
And there's so many people, too, I've run into that don't make that choice either way. But then they spout off, well, we need to have a revolution in this country. There needs to be blood in the streets from tyrants and all this. And I'm like, well, our founding fathers set up this system to where it can be there's checks and balances, and so if it goes one way, you can reelect, the next election cycle you can fix that wrong.
Right.
And you're not doing that. So I'm not on your side. I'm not for this revolution if you're not doing your part.
Right.
The revolution happens after you have done your part and these quote-unquote tyrants have not listened to you or not allowed you to vote.
Right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So if you're just sitting at home doing this and, eating Cheetos and loading AR-15 magazines, then no, screw you.
Yeah. And that's the truth of it. It's like, speak or do what you preach.
Right.
And that's something that's very important, is to live the way you preach. And, religious, everything else, it's just an honest way of living. And if you don't do that, people aren't going to take you seriously.
Right. And see, so if there is ever, God forbid, any kind of civil war again in this nation, I want to be the person to be able to honestly say, I did everything I could to prevent it.
And that's the moral standpoint we have. And you're seeing that with the right wing of things. Mm-hmm. And, something that is interesting, like you said, the rules of, what is it, that Marxist book?
Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals.
Yeah, so what they talk about is always playing as the underdog.
Yeah.
And what's really odd about that, because we have multi-billionaire companies that are sitting there telling us that, our cars are causing carbon issues when their factories are pumping out, and that, our products that we buy from another company are causing children to suffer when they have thousands of children producing shoes in India and for pennies. And, you look at that, and it's like, no, you guys aren't the underdog. You guys aren't the underdog. We're the underdog.
Yeah.
Because for every, one right-wing podcast there's 100 left-wings.
Yep.
And it's just the fad right now. How progressive can you be? How anti-tradition can you be?
Yeah.
How, ridiculously out-of-the-way robotic can you be?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Have you ever listened to NPR?
Well, no.
They're so monotone when they talk.
Hello today. Welcome to NPR Radio. We have Jonathan on the podcast today.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the frickin' frogs gay.
Well, there's the two extremes right there. The extreme left and the extreme. I don't even know what he is. But
he is definitely something, and I would say he's on the right more likely.
He is.
Yeah, and I'm willing to claim that. I like Alex Jones. He's willing to say stuff that everyone's thinking.
He is, and he's been right in a lot of stuff. He has. I mean, not saying that the whole lizard people and all that stuff's right. That gets a little weird. But I mean, the rest of it, yeah.
Yeah. Well. Oh goodness. Yeah. What is it? Barely 10.
No, we still got time, brother.
And we still got plenty of time. And just going into that, and we're already kind of made a good transition into.
Can we talk about SB5 here in a minute?
SB5, yeah. Let's go ahead and roll into that, SB5.
Okay, so Senate Bill 5 is the red flag order law that's it's passed the Senate now. Now it's officially passed the House, and unfortunately, it is now quote unquote New Mexico law. Fortunately, we live in San Juan County, and our county has been made a Second Amendment sanctuary county. Now, some lawmakers say, well, it doesn't matter, you still have to follow it. Well, sorry, I don't accept it. There's been lots of people who have said the same. There has also been another sheriff, I think it's from Sandoval County, who has come out publicly and said that he will refuse to uphold this law. He will go to jail first. Sheriff Shane Ferrari hasn't so much said that. He said that it is inevitably going to go to court. But I think Shane is kind of biding his time to see how this is all going to play out. I trust Shane. He is on our side. Thank God for sheriffs like him and other sheriffs throughout the state that have been in opposition to this and opposition to what the governor is trying to pull with this in this state. Only time will tell how this is going to go. Thankfully, the law was changed a little bit where it can't just be anybody that can make this red flag accusation. It has to be a law enforcement officer.
I'm glad that was my big concern. Was that whole ordeal was. I mean, once they changed it to that, I was a little bit more relieved, but at the same token, I'm it still is kind of dystopian.
Yeah.
To a degree.
Well, I mean, it's
you're guilty until you're proven innocent, and that's against the entire American judicial system.
Well, that's just it. This law actually makes it to where you have to prove your innocence. And that's, so much for the lady with the blindfold and the scales.
Right.
Because that's supposed to be justice is blind. Well, it's not. It's not.
Right.
So that's the problem with that law. Again, in San Juan County, we passed the Second Amendment sanctuary county. So it's going to be very interesting to see how far that is actually going to go. Mm-hmm. Inevitably, something is going to happen. And we'll keep you guys updated on the stuff that happens. Hey, one of us might end up in it. I don't know.
Right. Well, and
of course, although John, I couldn't end up in it because I lost all my guns in that boating accident last year.
It was really terrible.
Yeah.
It was a horror to behold.
Right.
Just shooting beer cans off the back of his boat and just lost it.
That's right.
Right. Just dropped it and it just right down in there. I saw a catfish eat it.
Yeah.
I want to call
Not that I was drinking and shooting at the same time.
No, I meant like empty beer.
Empty
like
beer
we were
cans.
just empty beer cans.
Yeah, we just found them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw that catfish, so I wanted to call a red flag warrant because that catfish had a funny look in his eyes.
He did.
So if you could go over there and get that gun from him, I'd really appreciate it.
And it's like, well, even like, you know, and I could see the argument against it too. People are like, oh, what are you scared? You know, it's like, oh, it's great because it's taking the guns out of the insane people. But it's like, look at it even in this way. You can twist it to even like the left's motives. Like, you know, 90% of all cops are racist. Oh, you know, it's this, you know, this huge ordeal with racism and things like that in the police force. So why are you giving them that power?
Yeah.
Why are you giving them that power?
Well, apparently the country is ran by neo-fascists who want to oppress queers and blacks and everyone
Anybody else who's not a white, you know, heterosexual, you know, male and female. You know what I mean? Like,
because apparently, you know, officers are enforcing Trump's Nazi will.
Exactly.
So obviously, the best thing to do is to give them guns.
give them the right to take away everything, all of your guns. Like,
right. Yeah. And that's why there's like a movement. Like, shout out to a page on Facebook. It's called. I think it's Armed Equality is what it's called. And yeah, the Edmonds, in my opinion, because I'm not in that whole group like of people, I do think some of them are a little loony.
What do you mean, you people? I'm just kidding.
Got him. Well, I'm sorry. There's something very wrong with transgenderism. Like, I mean, even a lot of LGBT people I've met, like, they're like, we don't really get the whole T thing.
Yeah.
I mean? They're like, we just want to, you know, we just love the same sex, but those people are a different kind of crazy. But something that's really cool about this page, it's like, well, just because you are like that, and I believe this, just because you are a bit weird, doesn't mean that you deserve to have your human rights rejected. Right. You know what I mean?
I think Americans, for the most part, are, whether they're liberal, whether they're Democrat or Republican, have a libertarian heart.
Right.
It's like, as long as you don't mess with me, I don't care what you do with your boyfriend Chuck or whatever. It's not none of my business.
That's even human nature. For the most part, is just
don't have peace with man.
Yeah.
You know? It's better to have peace than it is to cause.
When I have a problem with it is when you throw it at my face.
Right, like bake the cake.
Look at me, you have to accept me.
Right.
No, I don't have to accept you.
I mean, most of the realistic homosexuals that I've met are not. They're very conservative about it to the point where it's like, if you ask, I'm gay, and you can tell that they're gay because they bring off this, feminine vibe, which is common with.
They keep trying to unzip your pants.
But it's like, well, no. The sad tragedy of it is like these rallies. I think it's also tragic for people who are actually in homosexual relationships, these huge gay pride parades where people are flinging their genitalia about, and things like that. And I find it tragic is because it can also make it hard for homosexual people to admit that even in public, or let this flamboyant side of them come out, because they're going to be judged for that. Exactly. It's like, oh yeah, you're gay, so you must agree with people flailing their schlongs in the street in Gay Pride Month. And it's like, that's not fair, because like I'm just living a life, and it just so happens that what I do in my bedroom is that.
Well, and that's the same way of like being, the absolute truth of being right wing. It's like, well, you're just like Alex Jones, and it's like, oh no,
right?
We're not screaming into a microphone about gay frogs.
And I would have the same issue with two gay people doing that weird stuff as I would. Heterosexual. I don't want to see a guy and a girl like full on macking on each other in a park.
Right.
Okay. Because it's a public place. I got my kids there.
Right.
Okay. So it's no different.
It really is, and that's why like this whole school thing and this whole like they're trying to add the pedophilia thing to the group. It's like, or the tranny stories. What do they call it? Library times with the transvestite.
Yeah. Story time with drag queens.
Yeah, story time with drag queens. And I actually respect to this one drag queen. I couldn't for the life of me remember his name. Yeah, for the life of me, I couldn't remember his name. But he was saying, he's like, in the same sense that you would be like it would be like having a straight stripper tell your kid like, a bedtime story in their stripping outfit while they were doing a stripping deal.
Exactly.
And it's like, it's not the fact that they're a stripper that's bad. It's the fact that they're doing that in front of
That they're a stripper.
Yeah, that they're doing that in front of a kid. Not even like the fact that they're a stripper. It's like, even if they were just a stripper and they were like dressed in normal clothes, it wouldn't be a big deal. But if they're doing like that gig in front of your kids, that's exactly what like drag queenism is a fetish.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like a sexual pride thing. It's a fetish. So these people are practicing their fetish in front of your children.
Right.
And it would be the same thing as, like you said, two straight people macking it up on the park bench.
Right.
And it's like, dude, really, you're gonna undo her bra right here?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
And it's that same thing. And you're right. And that's kind of where, like, getting back into like the armed equality. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you genuinely believe that this nation is ran by a bunch of fascists and everything else, let me remind you of a quote that Marx wrote in his book, which is, any attempt to disarm the workers should be met with violent force. And I mean, okay, if I could agree with one thing Marx has to say, that's probably the big one. And the same thing, like, say a neo-Nazi group is coming down and it's bashing people who they believe is gay. They're coming around with bike locks. And they're
wink, wink.
And they're bashing people's heads in that they believe are perverted in their own heads, and the best way to confront that would be like, well, guess what, this is a free country, and despite my own way of doing things, I have a right.
Right.
I don't want to have to exercise that right, but because you are willing to take away my right to breathe, I have the right to take away yours.
Right.
And a lot of people misjudge that, and they say that, like, oh, well, Republicans want us to all die. It's like, you don't have any proof for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I do have plenty of proof to show that you guys want us all dead. But at that same token, I'm not going to tell anybody to go on a rampage or anything like that. Because I personally, like, I'm radical with passion, but I don't want to be radical with violence. That's our thing. That's been our gig. Like, ever since Is Today the Day, we changed our name from the Evigilans podcast to Is Today the Day. It's been about peace. It's been about, like, just having peace with man and just trying to stop this impending, nightmare.
Right.
And, I mean, things are bad enough as it is. I couldn't imagine it getting worse.
Right.
And so, we want to exercise our rights, but we want to exercise our rights peacefully.
Right.
And if that means exercising our human rights alongside with people we don't fully agree with, but they don't want to take my right to life away, well, by all means, they're an ally.
Right.
That's the whole lesser evil. It's like, okay, well, I don't really agree with the homosexual lifestyle. I really don't. And I'm going to say that outright. But at that same time, I believe they have the right to shoot someone who's trying to hit them for being gay.
Right.
You know what I mean? Who's trying to kill them.
They have a right to protect themselves, just like me or you do.
They are humans, and they have human rights, unalienable.
Yeah.
God-given, and if they don't believe in God, then birth-given. You know what I mean?
But with that same token, I have a right to protect myself if, and this is, not talked about very much, but if one of them is trying to rape me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that happens often, way more often than what it's reported.
Right.
In fact, if you take the prison system into effect, did you know that men actually have more sexual assaults on them as a whole than women do in this nation? Oh. If you take in effect the prison system.
Well, I mean, the prison system is what the prison system has been since, 1800s? Yeah. I mean, goodness gracious, that's a whole different ball game too. Like, and you're not going to have a gun to protect yourself in a prison. No. And there's a reason for that. It's because you probably tried to do something.
But even in a prison, weapons are made.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Even in a prison, they got toothbrush spikes. Mm-hmm. And
they make shivs. So even in a place where they tried their very best to disarm you, people still make arms.
Exactly. And that's, again, and I mean, unlike in a prison, people will go out of their way to actually use those arms.
Yeah.
You know, where we're at now, we're not in that prison environment, and we're not going out of our way to use our arms.
No.
You know, because we are free people.
We're peaceful.
We're free, peaceful people.
Right.
We're Americans, and the American dream is to be able to do what you want without hurting anybody else.
Si vis pacem parabellum.
Right. Exactly. And that's just where it is. Yeah, to prepare for war.
If you want peace, prepare for war.
Metallica, Jefferson, the American dream. And there it is. That's our message, as it always has been, as it always will be. It's like, don't tread on me.
Yeah, exactly.
That's from America's founding. It was like, this doesn't have to happen.
Right.
That's right there. That flag was just like a big, this doesn't have to go down like this.
No.
King George, you're all the way over there. We're all the way over here. Just leave us be, man.
Can you imagine how different this nation would be had King George just chilled?
Yeah, I don't think he'd be around, actually.
No.
I don't think, because this nation was born in bloodshed. So.
We would be a British nation. We would be part of the UK.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Hardship, that's the endless cycle, which brings us all the way back down to it. The endless cycle, which kind of like, I had that epiphany, that one podcast. It's like, everything really is pointless.
Yeah.
Everything we talk about and all that. Not to say that it's pointless for us to do this show or anything, but, the cycle of man is a proven gonna happen. Yeah. Bad men create bad times, which create good men, which create good times, which create bad men.
That's what Solomon found out. That's why he wrote Ecclesiastes.
Yeah, Ecclesiastes. And it's so bizarre to me, because that certain spot in the Bible, I had no idea. I was just reading the Bible one day, opened it up randomly, and that stuck with me for life. That one verse is my favorite verse.
Everything is meaningless?
Everything is meaningless.
Yeah.
Vanity, vanity, all is vanity.
Yeah.
And everything that has been...
There's nothing new under the sun.
Everything that has been done will be done again.
Yep.
All the way down. The rivers flow into the ocean, they go up, and then they return back to the start of the river.
Yep.
And, that's the truth of it. And that's why, the most important love story, the greatest love story ever told, is the only thing that matters. You could be... you could be the greatest revolutionist of all time. Doesn't matter. Someone's already done it.
Yep.
Someone's already done that.
And they sung about it too, John. Did you know that?
How funny.
The circle of life. Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah, but, someone has already done it, and it will be conquered over, and someone will have to do it again.
Yep.
And I think Thomas Jefferson and the Founding Fathers understood that. That's why they were like, well, somebody's going to try to take this away eventually.
Right.
And, well, honestly, they've been taking that dream away since 1919. They've been slowly picking away at every little leaf of the amendment.
Oh, sure.
And that's why the Second Amendment was written, was like, well, in the event that this does and eventually will be battled with, you have the right to take up and rise against your oppressor.
Right.
We give you that. And whether you use it or not, that's up to you.
Yeah.
And it is kind of funny coming to that thing where it's like, well, we don't want to.
Yeah.
We don't want to use that. But we have the right to.
Right.
And it's really awesome, hearing these sheriffs and these police and everything. That's what I was waiting for. And that's why I never flew the blue line, because I was like, I don't know how serious, officers are being about this, because there's a lot of officers in other areas that I wouldn't trust.
Well, take Virginia, for example.
Exactly.
What just happened with their passing of laws?
Yeah, they passed a law that everyone protested against, and that officers were saying they weren't going to support it. And the moment that law was passed, get out of here or you're going to be arrested.
Yeah.
I'm
just doing my job.
I'm just doing my job.
Where have we heard that before, John?
We've heard that throughout history.
The Nazis were just doing their job, weren't they?
The Nazis were just doing their job. The Japanese soldiers in Unit 736 or whatever it was. 731 was it? I'm tired. But
the rape of Nanking. They were just doing their job.
They're just doing their job for king, God, and country. You know what I mean? Mostly for king and country.
And emperor.
Sure. And that's just down to it. It's really awesome to see these sheriffs setting up, because again, that's something. It's it's putting a postponement on the use of force.
Right.
Because, well, whether we accept it, it's actually really nice because the state, like New Mexico, will take Shane as a serious, like, hey, these people, I'm defending them. Mm-hmm. And just that alone, to have someone who's local and actually has a voice like that is a huge peacekeeping. And that's the thing, too. Like, that's what officers are supposed to do. Yeah. Peacekeepers, right?
Well, I think Shane kind of sees the writing on the wall, and so does these other sheriffs. Because we have a lot of very conservative individuals in New Mexico.
Right.
And I think they realize that if they are not the voice of reason taking up for us, because they're elected officials also. But if they are not the voice of reason, the crazier guys, Billy Joe Bob with his boogaloo thoughts is going to come out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So they're a little bit like less extremes. They're like, well, we better give these guys what they want and do what we're elected to do, or the citizens are going to take it into their hands.
Right.
And
trust me, you don't want to be at the end of that guillotine.
No, you don't. Ask the French when they had their.
That's exactly
revolution.
What I was referencing.
Yeah.
Because
let them eat cake.
Exactly. There's just going to come a time where it's like, as George Bush said, you're either with us or you're with the terrorists. And that's a very true fact right now. Yeah. You're either with us or you're with the tyrants.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be a tyrant and get caught in the people's vision. You know what I mean? Because they will, and as I've read on the internet, the people who are trying to take your right to live away have a name and address.
Yeah.
So, just keep that in mind. And that's not a threat. It's more of just like, don't piss off crazy Joe Bob.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do anything. But crazy Joe Bob, I can't speak for him.
Well, and Glenn Beck actually talks about this. He calls it the Bubba effect. And it's kind of a funny thing. He talks about that, like how like there's these some people out there, and unfortunately, they're just hoping and praying for the boogaloo or the end of the world as we know it, all this different stuff, with whatever you want to call it, to happen. But unfortunately, they don't understand how horrible that's going to be.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I'm ready. I've watched footage of people dying. Listen,
I played a video game of it once.
No. And that's the thing. It's like, you don't understand how emotionally just damaging. Like I said, I had a situation at my old house where someone was on my property.
Right.
And they had broken into the neighbor's house. I didn't know if they were a threat or not. And just that, having that moment where I was aiming a firearm at someone in my life, where it's like, what the hell are you doing in my bushes?
And think about living under that daily.
Yeah, and think about that. Yeah, that would be draining. And that's why, a lot of soldiers probably come back with issues because they've had to pull the trigger on people.
Well, and that's the thing with PTSD. And they've made it a little bit better. The recent wars, they found out that if they have a soldier that's under that for a while, if they'll bring them back behind the lines for a while, they can keep them going a little bit longer, because they get a break. But if you have a Tawaki scenario, the end of the world as we know it,
it's never going to end.
There is no bringing back behind the lines. You're living in it. Think Kosovo, okay?
Oh, man.
Those people live in it daily. To this day, there's wars and fighting going on.
Exactly.
And survival by the skin of your teeth.
Exactly. And it's like, you might have watched a couple movies. You may have played a couple games.
I played DayZ like yesterday.
Right. But it's not like that.
Yeah.
It's, while there are similarities.
Although I would love to play that game sometime.
DayZ? I'll probably buy it for you. It is quite fun. It's on PC. We could probably, but it's expensive as hell. Anyways, just that concept. It's like, no, this isn't a movie. This isn't a game. And that's what I think, like, recruiters and stuff have used that a lot, where it's like, oh, you're pretty good at Call of Duty, aren't you, buddy? How about you go play it for real?
Yeah.
And
it's getting to the point. It's getting to the point, though, with this next generation, especially with the huge new virus that came out before coronavirus called Fortnite was created.
You know what amazes me about your generation, though, IT, I think it's cool, is how much, just your random kids that have never shot guns before know so much about guns.
Yeah, kind of, but like a good portion of the next people that are coming up, like 15 maybe ish or younger, who live in a place where they're not too enthusiastic about it, think that real life copied guns from Fortnite. Somebody, there was a military man, it was like SAS or someone, he was holding a SCAR, right? He was doing a demonstration on like how to run the SCAR and things like that. And he was holding it, and it was a picture of like, of the moment, it was like Sergeant yada 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 holding SCAR H. And a little kid had commented below that. I'm not sure if this was fake, but I believed it. It sounded legitimate.
It's possible. That's
it's plausible. This person said, "Look, they made the gun from Fortnite real." They thought, because there's a heavy rifle in the game.
They thought that it originated from Fortnite.
Exactly. They thought yeah. And
Zoomers be walking around thinking the SCAR is the best weapon ever made.
Yeah, and it's like that's what scares me, is to the point where this fabricated reality is going to be translated into reality to them. Like they think that they must have created it based off of the game must have been the root idea that led to this creation.
Well, I mean, how old is that kid though?
That's a fair point.
Yeah, if it's a little kid, so it's like that's just funny.
As they get a little bit older, I mean,
but you also have to understand though. Think of this: our senators think that clip mags are the same thing, and
that's true.
I mean, like, think of that. Put that.
But they got so much information now. Like me, when I was a kid, I mean, the only information I could get is like if because my dad was like a member of the NRA. So there would be like articles on different guns, and that's all the information I get, or out of Shotgun News. Have you guys ever heard of Shotgun News?
No.
It was a big catalog that had different guns in it, and they always had articles and stuff. But that's the only information I could get. So I would voraciously read those every time because I just loved it. But now they got like Forgotten Weapons. They got Grand Thumb. They got all this stuff on YouTube. Yeah. All these guys that are like so cool on YouTube that teach you about these real guns. And Hickok 45 even mentioned, like, he said, I used to think video games were like so stupid. He said, but now I'm actually seeing some of these kids that are coming and saying, hey, you should review this gun or you should review that gun because they saw it on Red Dead Redemption.
Right. You should check it out.
Yeah,
Battlefield 1 was a big inspiration for like their Arasaka review and the Martini Henry. Yeah, because of the resurgence of Battlefield.
There it is, guys.
Right. Yeah. But anyways. Going into that concept of information right now, there was like a poll created, right? And they asked a random number of students, why do you not vote? From the ages of 18 to roughly 25 years of age, right? Right. Obviously, when you can vote, and a little bit further on,
almost to the 30 mark.
Exactly. And so a big reason why people said that they didn't vote was, I think the top one. It's one of the two is the top ones. It's because my vote doesn't make a difference, or I don't know anything about what's going on.
Yeah.
So going into that information thing, I think that there's always a caveat to that, where it's like, someone like you and I can say there's so much information at our hands at any given time. Just like then.
At our fingertips.
Exactly. You asked me just a second ago, or obviously a couple minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, what was that baseball team in California? I wouldn't have guessed that had I not had my smartphone on me and just been able to Google it, just like that. And it's getting to the point where these people, I even see it in the classrooms that I'm taking, are ignorant. Ignorant not as in stupidity, ignorant as in lack of knowledge. They don't know. They just don't know these things. Right. You know what I mean? And it's like, you literally have the entirety of you have thousands of libraries at your disposal in a device that is smaller than a book.
You can access the entire like chronological order of events of the Crusades and read them in probably like an hour.
Do you think it's like, now I'm moving my phone here as a demonstration, guys. You guys can't see this, but do you think it's like out of laziness? Like, I don't want to do that.
There's also the thing like, a good portion of these people spend a good majority of their time on social media, and it's like I'm not saying that to dog it, because I hate this preachy boomer culture that
I love social media.
Exactly.
I used to drink out of water holes and shoot my Martini Henry.
Exactly. I used to go scope out beers with this 208 4500 cartridge and get my water out the well all these people addicted to their damn cell phones. What are we gonna do about that? And it's like, I'm tired of it, okay? Yeah. You are literally preaching to the deaf right now. Nobody's gonna listen. Yeah. They're gonna cut you off right there, and they're gonna ignore you.
It's a change.
The future is now, old man.
The future is now, old man.
And I've said this to other people before, because I've heard lots of boomers say this, and in a way, I do long for that. I am the last generation that remembers not having this dang thing.
A phone, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I remember not having that. You can't take that away from me. Check your privilege.
Well, no, I'm even saying in his sentient years. Like the years that he could remember,
as a full-grown adult.
I am the last generation that remembers a time before using
cell
Facebook.
Phones. Yeah,
before cell phones. Period.
I'm also the beginning of the generation. 11 days after the generation, or not even 11, a couple years after the generation where 9/11 is being taught as history.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I've never lived it.
I mean, in a way, and that's why sometimes, I got a good friend of mine. We go elk hunting and stuff together sometimes. And our rule, when we go out, because sometimes we'll stay for a while and do stuff. Mm-hmm. Our rule is that our phones don't come out, don't get turned on unless it's an emergency. Mm-hmm. We turn them off. We stick them in our packs.
Right. Yeah, and that's the big thing that I've also noticed. Like camps. I've been associated with this organization called Young Life. They are not in any way affiliated with us. Don't get that misconstrued. If misrepresentation is seen here, we can cut this out. But I've been associated with this organization, and they actually, if you go to their camps, they take your phones away from you. To be a part of the camp, you cannot have your cell phone. Yeah. You take it and they put it in a box, they tape it, and they have it in their supervision, and they put your address on it just in case somehow you leave without the box or something happens. They can mail it off to you, right?
Yeah, right.
That's the first thing that happens is they take it away from you. It is a rule in the camp. And you will literally, your leader will not have it. Your leader will not have your phone for you.
There's something about, that social thing, too, and that's why I think, the youth camps that I went to was, the best weeks of my life.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because, you come back home and just, taking someone out to eat, it's they're, looking at their phone. Mm-hmm. And not so much, to be, preachy, that,
right,
boomer thing you're talking about. Because, don't get me wrong, life goes on despite, you taking someone out to eat.
Yeah, it's a good thing that whole digital, I call it digital disconnect.
Yeah. But, there's another part of it, the digital disconnect, with a youth program or with a group of friends, say just you and a group of friends when you're camping, you put it away and it's not there. And so what that enforces you to be entertained, you have to engage with someone.
That's a rule that me and my wife try to do. If we go out on a date, we try not to
leave your phones in the car or something like that.
I usually have my phone with me, but we try to talk to each other. Uh-huh. And also I remember back in the day when I went to youth camp, a big thing because most kids didn't have cell phones because your phone was this big. Our youth pastors even said, "Well, you can't have your CD player with you," because a lot of us had CD, portable CD
Walkmans.
Yeah. And it's
no
music.
There's literally even in those days, kids who would plug in their Walkmans and that would be it.
Yeah.
They would just sit there. Yeah, they would just sit there and not engage and not get anything new.
So it's not nothing new,
and it's
that was all the way back in the 80s.
Exactly. I mean, it's been a problem, and it's one of these things. Interestingly enough, that I've looked into, and I've read some papers, heard a couple things on it, and it's the one thing us humans probably the biggest fear at the end of the day is being alone. Right? Yeah. And it's this moment where we have this, take eating, right? Eating in a restaurant. I was taking a psychology class, and our psychologist brought up an interesting thing. He says, how many of you would eat by yourself? You would go out to even, say, a nicer restaurant, like Red Lobster or something, and eat by yourself. You don't. Why? Because it feels awkward. Why would you do that? 9 times out of 10 where you're going to eat with someone out in a public place, you're going to be with somebody else, right?
Right.
And it's it's this psychological factor of not liking to be alone, right? That's our one thing, safety and numbers.
I don't care how introvert that you say you are. Mm-hmm. There's a certain point where it's well, I'd like someone here.
Exactly.
Humans
you would
are
kill yourself
social
over it.
creatures.
Yeah.
There's a reason why God went down and looked at Adam and said, it's not right for you being alone, bro.
Right.
We need to get you somewhere.
Unless you I'm talking you are a broken veteran who has seen some shit. You are not going to be happy in a 1-by-1 cell by yourself.
Again, going back to my
my
buddy, my bow hunter buddy. He's an introvert.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we're pretty good pals, and like I'm an extrovert.
Yeah, right. You're outgoing and things like that. And he's just the polar opposite, right?
But so he was telling me, he's like, yeah, I like spending time with people. But he said, but sometimes I do like to just be by myself for a while.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's how introverted.
And like, imagine, like, you know, you go to be by yourself for a while, but like, you know, you can't go back.
But even me as an extrovert.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd
like to be alone.
And
that's the thing is, like, I've noticed, like, even out in public especially, when you feel alone, like when a conversation ends with somebody that's around you, the first thing that you do is you pull out your phone and you start browsing something, you start pissing around on something. Yeah. And it's that I think the big thing that's hard for me that I'm trying to break right now is getting away from that. Yeah. Sometimes it's okay to just look alone. Look like you're not busy.
That constant influx into your brain isn't good for you.
Exactly. Because as that being alone or looking alone even is bad. You know, looking not busy, to us it's perceived as bad. And it's like, well, what else do I do? Put your hands in your pockets. Do something. Just stand there. Like just literally think about it.
You know, before you know, like we had like endless data and everything. Like how I met you, you were just sitting there kind of like looking around. Right. You know? And I mean, you probably weren't intentionally doing that, but you look kind of like a fish out of water. Right. So I was like, hey there, buddy, let's hang out sometime. But you know, like, you know, my example, like me going to a social program, being homeschooled, I have been an extrovert. I get energy from speaking with people, from dealing with people, just sharing my experiences with them and listening to what their experiences are. And it's this like, because I remember one time I was taken aback. I was at Steamworks in Durango, and I saw all these people BSing around a bar. Mm-hmm. And I was just sitting there, and I looked over, and I was like, how interesting that, you know, it's not just like an NPC thing where all these people are robots and they exist because you see them because you went in this building. You know what I mean? It's like every one of these people are adults, and they've been around, and they all have stories, and they have, like, if you were to talk to every one of them, you would probably have like so much fun, like just learning about them and why they believe what they do, and their experiences and like relationships. Maybe some of them are service members, right? Different things like that. Just and real people with actual past experiences. And then there's 7 billion stories.
Well, and the cool thing with that is when you're talking to real people. Yeah, you're a lot more polite to each other. Yeah. Right. How rude people are on social media.
I'm awful when it comes to video games, man. Like I had somebody describe me. They said, IT, you can literally be the most tactful, helpful human being on the face of this earth, or you could be the biggest asshole I've ever met in my entire life. Right. I said, well, that's kind of strange, because it's like normally, like in real life, I'm not so much timid as much as I avoid conflict, right? Yeah. And it's like, as soon as I get in that digital realm, man, I am an ass. I am in your face. I am shutting you down
because there's no repercussion.
Exactly.
When you're on your headset and you see somebody do something, you're like, well, that was effing dumb.
Yeah, you're stupid.
That's not like somebody's gonna like punch you in the face, you know?
Right. Nobody's gonna hit you.
Nobody's gonna come out through the microphone and punch you in the face.
But it's like, it's weird though. Once you start getting to that point, like as far as like even psychologically concerned, you can think ahead and you're like, I'm talking to a person, but as far as like what your eyes are seeing, you're talking to a screen.
Well, and that's
you're talking to a video game character.
Exactly. Road rage, for that example. If you were both like walking down the street, less likely you're gonna have walking rage.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
I had road rage today.
As far as you see is a robot car that's driving in front of you, and it's being dumb.
Right.
So you're angry at the car, like subconsciously you're registering that there's this car and it's causing you an inconvenience. Right. So you're really pissed off at it. Yeah. But like the moment, like a lot of, you know, that is like quelled once someone gets out of the car, it's like, oh shit, yeah, there's a person in there. You know?
Human.
And some people really are angry at humans with that regard. But what I was going with, like my example, is like once I, you know, was old enough and I left the youth and everything like that, it's like, okay, now to find, what am I going to do socially now? Right. Well, I don't really feel like going to a pub because, well, that's not really my kind of thing. And, well, you know, more or less in a young adults youth group is kind of, you know, but there's no, like back in the day, you would be like, you would meet some people, you'd call them, invite your friends, and you would all meet up in like your house or whatever, and you'd have like a social gathering, and it was just a normal thing. Like all the way down, like back in the day, people who would like, it's the morning rush to work. And grandma's just in her house, and a random, like not random, but like a friend would come by for breakfast. Breakfast, you're not going to see that anymore.
No,
it's all we've traded the social like engagement of people face to face. Which I don't care what you say, everyone, doctors, everything. There is something about that face to face deal. That's so important.
Well, even going back
like,
to
could you
doctors,
imagine if like the Messiah Christ came out and it's like, his disciples had like cell phones and stuff like that? I mean, it would be very interesting to see the differences and stuff like that.
Well, it would probably turn into something that's like, oh, the Messiah's been crucified, but that happened like a week after. Like, oh, the Messiah's dead. You have a whole bunch of these death scandals where it's like information spreads so quick that like
we don't know which one's true.
Yeah, well, like fluffy. It was so depressing for me, like because it was instantly like, oh, there's no longer a scheduled like social program, and and what ones there are. It's I don't know. I haven't really found a good one, but. I've always been a romantic and everything else. So these social events were like some way for me to like express myself to people. I would, be it, telling my experience with walking in faith or anything else. And that social deal, once you're an adult, it's like you go to work and then you go home and you sit at home and you browse your phone. And, if you want a social interaction, the most normal way to go about it is to get in a party chat or something, or, you join a group chat on Facebook between you and your friends. And not to say that's a bad thing, but it's really bad when it's like, instead of meeting up with you, I think we should just talk on here because it's easy.
Right. It's convenient.
It's convenient. And what you start to like, because there's something about like seeing that little chat bubble that our brains don't register the same as like a face.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of marriages and stuff like that have fallen apart, like long distance deals, because they don't see each other as like a face or like a person, and not even like FaceTime can capture that.
Right.
Yeah. It's something that just is blocked by this dystopian screen that is always in front of us. And a world without phones would also be a good world. But it would also be like, it's just interesting.
It's a hard thing to drop, though, because it's like, think of your boss, right? Something happens at work, you call your boss. And just like that, you can get a problem solved.
Exactly.
Well, that's just it. When we was talking about that the other day, about, like, work production has increased since the due to the cell phone.
So there's awesome
back
stuff.
In the day, even when I first started at my old job at Microbial Energy, I had flip phones, but the boss didn't really call you that much unless there was something huge. But now, like, most people in the field are on call at some point.
Right.
And
exactly.
And you're expected to have this phone with you at all times.
Right.
24/7, 365.
Right.
And so there is no actual full disconnect even from work anymore.
Right. And I mean, even another thing, like females, right? Like females, and that's not a bad thing, it's just how they were made. They like attention. And men do too. There's something about getting attention that is a wonderful thing. And you have this, instead of going out and like seeking like an attention from people right in front of you, you're posting pictures of yourself or art that you made or something like that to a group of strangers
you're never gonna meet. You
know
what I mean?
And
that's...
they'll comment something, and that's kind of like the end of it. And like people have literally traded like going out and expressing themselves and who they are in person for the adoration of people who genuinely do not care.
And there's become this huge thing too, like, and I've seen some of the younger generations of I don't have Snapchat.
All right.
I got Facebook, that's it. And I got Twitter because I like seeing what Trump says. But these especially females, these girls,
tragic.
They'll make this huge like life, quote unquote. I'm using quote signs for themselves.
They're like an influencer,
saying how like showing how like wonderful they are or whatever, But most of it's like just made up. I mean, it's like it's not real,
right? And the thing that I think we're gonna start seeing like psychologically is females right now are in an age right now where, you know, back in the day you had, women were covering up their bodies, and slowly we started seeing more and more of a revealing thing, which, you know, like it or not, debatable. It's very debatable if it's good or it's bad. But right now what we're seeing is this, like, I mean, obviously once you see that somebody likes something, whether you know it or not, you're getting a dopamine rush to your head, right? And it's like the thing that's going to happen eventually is that these females that are, you know, posting their bodies in either revealing ways or even not so much revealing ways, but in ways where they're young, they're ready, they're fit, they can grab the world, you know, by the leash, you know, for all that it's considered, you know. I think people don't realize that one day these looks are going to fade. You know what I mean?
Stop simping.
Well, no. The thing that I'm talking about is, like, you got a new car, right? You got a brand new car, fresh off the lot, right? So these females are finding out that I have this new car, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to push my foot on the gas a little bit and see what kind of reaction I can get, right? So they get this reaction, like, holy crap, that felt good. I'm going to do it again, right? I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. Until they hit their 30s and they have nobody around them. Because what you were valued for was what you posted, right? Who you were was your body, and it becomes that, you know, around this whole idea where the body is, you know, even sex is seen as a transaction. It's seen as pleasure. It's not seen as a connection.
And that's exactly what I was about to say. Like, on that note, like the conundrum that I'm trying to express is, like, we're in the age and in the society where I could genuinely see someone trading real sex with a real female instead to wank themselves off to some pictures they received from that female.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
That's insane.
That's insane, but that is the absolute
It's one
fact.
of those things, like, even looking at males, like, right, females have to take this into consideration, that you know, that whole psychological factor of being this beautiful, you know, monument to behold, and men have to rewire their brains even for pornography. I mean, that's another beast in and of itself. Is that addiction that even if it's not an addiction, it's just that thing that it's so easily just available. You know what I mean? And it's just one of those things. It's such a conundrum, but people, it's bigger, like. Humans, like, you know, like, going back to the boomer thing where it was like, people need to get off them damn cell phones and things like that. It's like people see this bad side of it and immediately throw it out of the way. Yeah. They don't see the benefits that we are able to stay more informed. If you're willing to put in the work, you are able to stay more informed than anybody in the entire world. Doctors have a higher chance of probably successfully diagnosing you than they did several years ago, because they don't have to go to a library and look up a medical journal or anything like that. Right. And they don't have to do that. Instead, they can get this report where even a website, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but they try and stay this medical website posts a good majority of all of the medical findings that they possibly can, so that doctors can stay up to date. That is amazing. That is at your fingertips. And it's like people tend to look at this deficit. Take LED lights, right? LED street lights, right? Even LED car lights. They are quite cheap to produce. Their electricity consumption is astronomically lower than incandescent bulbs, right? Yeah. You can save the state hundreds of thousands of dollars in electricity costs, in manufacturing costs, and things of that nature. But the one caveat why people turn it off and shut off LED lights being produced in that way for street lights, and, like, because they're not hot enough to melt snow. Yeah. And it's like immediate, like they shut that down, and it's because of this one deficit that they see. They can immediately tune it out, where this is invalid right now. Instead of looking at the positives, where it's like, we have created a law where if a street light is not functioning, treat it as a stop sign. Treat it as a four-way stop. It's as simple as that. If you're at a stoplight and it's either blinking red or it's turned off, treat it as a stop sign. It's treat it as a four-way stop. And it's like, you do the same thing with snow, but people look at that and immediately just shut down the argument. And it's human nature. I mean, at that point, you could argue that it could be a habitual thing that's been learned over time. But as we're seeing more and more, I mean, people are just do it. Just do it. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's so hard to find that balance of things. You know what I mean?
Well, going back to something you mentioned earlier, just real quick, you know, about these girls doing this, and how, you know, basically they put themselves out there and all they have is for likes is what people are saying, like, for their body, and they start getting older. I mean, Proverbs talks about it in 31:30. You know, charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who loves the Lord is to be praised. And that's what, you know, Proverbs, it was teaching young men what to look for in a woman. And yeah, as a guy, you're looking for a pretty one,
Right.
okay? Yeah, of course.
Uh-huh.
But you have to remember, she ain't always going to look like that forever. So you better find something more than just the looks.
Exactly.
Because if you get a pretty one, but y'all don't really get along that well, it ain't going to last.
And that's the thing that I even see that's tragic in this generation too, is like replacing the old model for a newer one, right?
Yeah.
These very, wealthy individuals, and not even if they're wealthy, I mean retired, replacing it for a much younger, obviously more beautiful female.
Right.
I find that to be a crime, man.
Yeah.
I just find it to be horrible because it's like, when you take your vows, this isn't. And I've even seen this in my own family where it doesn't mean anything. You divorce them just like that. It's like,
yeah.
It's hard too because like you're getting to a point where people aren't marrying each other because it seems like too big of a commitment even.
Oh, that's
you know
huge.
what I
I've
mean?
noticed like people like will
Wait
live together.
They get engaged and they wait 5 years to actually get married.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell? You and I have even seen it with our friends.
It just throws
It's like,
me off.
what?
I don't understand.
I promise you, next year.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because I'm an old guy. Like I don't even understand like the whole thing of just like shacking up together, whether you're sleeping with each other or not.
Right.
I just don't understand that.
Uh-huh.
Like, because you put yourself in a really weird situation,
Right.
where you're with this girl, or whatever, and it's like, well, I'm with you. And he's like, well, we're going to get married? Well,
Maybe not. And that even just goes into things being transactional. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes people just expect to get what they give. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just it's such a hard thing to factor. Is that, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, there is quite. I mean, Christians and everyone. It's a syndrome where people treat humans like vending machines.
it's a reciprocity agreement.
Yeah,
being
there you
reciprocal.
go. Yeah.
And it's like it's just it's so tragic, this vicious cycle where
Do you think maybe? I mean, and that's where Christ before anything else.
Well, of
And
course, yeah.
I am a capitalist and everything, but it's like, do you think maybe that decadence, like, and I can't help but think, like, in those like communist bloc nations that, where think people are generally poorer and they have to like walk to work and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, like in those old apartments, it's like all the people in that apartment know each other.
Right.
I live on a street right now that's like it's a dirt road,
Right.
and I don't know anybody else.
Yeah.
I even, like I said, I had an accident with my neighbor once, and I paid him $100 and everything to pay for it, but I never actually met them.
Well, that's a problem big time, like I think nowadays in the United States. Because back in the day, we used to know our neighbors.
Yeah.
You used to have fire. 4th of July, you had a grill out on the middle
You had
of
a
the
block
street.
party.
Yeah.
Now, like
You
even
know-
where I live, I mean, I kind of know the people to my left and to my right, but I have never even talked to the people across the street.
You can even look at it like this. Like there was a study that went out where people like are gonna meet. How many people are you gonna meet in your lifetime? There was a surprisingly low amount of people that you are gonna meet in your life, and by meet I think it was constituted as like you're gonna have probably about 180 or so people that you're gonna be acquainted with. Meaning, I've said hello to them. I probably won't be able to name their name, but it's gonna be like, hey, I remember you from so and so.
Right.
And there's gonna be probably 36 people that you're relatively familiar with. Meaning, oh yeah, I know your name. I know kind of where you work. Right. And there's gonna be probably at the max like 10 to 20 people where you were going to be able to know bam, 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 XXX, about that person. And it's weird because like what I just drew this correlation in my mind right now, like even tying it back to the smartphones. I mean, I hate to sound like a boomer, but it's like the need for this community right now, because our communities have broadened. Right? Take Aztec, right? It's tragic. I'm going to use this horrible example. Well, no, not even a horrible example. Take a police chase happening in Aztec right now. Farmington people wouldn't hear about it until maybe a day or two afterwards, you know what I mean? But now we can, as soon as it happens, there's a huge car chase down in Aztec.
Yeah.
That's crazy. We can go and see it right now if we're fast enough. And it's like our communities have broadened to the point where right now I'm very close friends. Like I could name a few people off the top of my head. I could name whereabouts of their birthdays, who their significant others are, what they're doing as a profession right now, and I've never seen their face. I don't know who they are, even down to the point is like personality, because I haven't been able to pick up those social cues or anything like that. My community has extended to the part of the West Coast. How insane is that? That blows my mind.
It's really neat. But like on that
awesome.
same, again, like, you know, like not to throw things right out, but like, you know how I was saying, like, we don't know our neighbors anymore. It's like, it's because, well, you know, back then it was like, well, let's go see what they're up to. You know, nowadays it's like, oh, well, I've got all the people that I know. Why broaden? You know what I mean? And that's why it's like, you know, you go home and, oh, well, let's invite these people over and that sort of thing because we know them. And it is kind of restrictive. And I don't think it was intentional. But like I said, it's that same thing. Like, there's a lack of going to meet someone every day. You know what I mean? Just on the side. Right. And that is largely in part, it's like, well, what bother? You know, we have ourselves
I'm fine here.
I'm fine here. And, you know, we've constrained ourselves.
It's really tragic.
It's like, we've broadened our perspectives and we've broadened our view lines and people we meet, but you know, it's like I was saying with those like countries, like just going down, I'm sure there's like a Russian babushka that, you know, that some town boys would go visit and they get cookies from them, and it's like America rewinded in the culture. You know, that sort of thing. And it's just because there's no cellular jack out there. You know what I mean? There's nothing. They're still back in like the 80s, and their cellular phones are as big as houses. Right.
And the thing with me too, like personally, is I can sit here and talk all of this, you know, like even like reflecting on my personal life, like what I've just said here can even apply to me just as easily as anybody else.
Right. Exactly.
But the thing is though, is I can sit here and talk about it all I want, but at the end of the day, I know even in the back of my head, I'm not going to change.
Yeah.
It's already, it's not even so much, I could change, but it's like, it's one of those things where it's just like, even then it's like, man, that's a lot of work. You know what I mean? Like, it's just it's become so ingrained to the point where it's hard to lose it. Like if I lost my phone, like that's the hardest thing for me to fathom right now. Is like, what if the cell service goes down? Yeah. It's like my dad's on the other side of the state right now. I don't know how I'm ever going to talk to him again. I'm probably never going to see him again.
I like the meme that shows like says that like if you lose your internet, and it has a picture of like Little House on the Prairie people. Like you lose your internet for 5 minutes, it's like
I am separated from the rest of the world. I even got that anxiety.
Like, you know what I would like to see, and I'm serious about this. I would like to see Facebook go down for like 4 months.
Yeah,
just 4 months of a year.
You know what? People would literally kill themselves.
Well, that's their social outlet. Like that's the thing, is it's like even right now, for a good portion of what I can...
But, like, imagine also, like, the stuff that would come back, like, maybe around the second month.
That's true.
Like, people who would, like, well, I'm not getting this social outlet anymore. Right. I'm not getting this candy, you know, cotton candy, worthless digital crap. I'm going to go out and I'm going to, like... I'm just going to hold up a sign. Hey, want to be my friend? Right. You know what I mean? Like, you're just going to see, like, this communication.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm not saying to, like, get rid of all of it. Right. I'm just saying, like, Facebook alone.
Right.
And how many
I wonder how many people, the question is, like, if Facebook were to go down like that, like, it wouldn't be so much the social impact, but how many people would return? Like, what would be the statistics of users that would go back to it?
Yeah. So I wonder if it would just go away.
Right. If it would, like, just
because people are like, oh my god, you know, like this is what we've been missing out on. Is this like, you know, every night we could have a campfire and have people come over.
Right.
Like what? You know, and it's just this really cool idea. It's like a show and tell that isn't just an instant, you know, like right there. It's something. Hey, you know, check this out. You know, I created a hot rod in my garage and.
You want to take a spin?
A spin. Yeah, it's like you just take people out.
I saw that before. It's like I saw a meme like that once. It says this was my social media back in the day, and it was like a bunch of guys working on a car.
Right.
You know, they went over to your house and they're like, hey.
At the end of like the work day, you know what I mean? Yeah. They would just come by and it's like, hey, bro, you working on your car? Yeah, man.
Yeah, you want to have? Yeah, sure.
Hey, you got a beer? Yeah,
I'm fixing to put the transmission in.
Yeah. And it's like that's just was something there, you know, and that kind of still like survived, but you know, again, it's the party chat and like PlayStation. Like I'll hop on Discord or whatever with you guys, and it's like, all right, well, let's play. You know, the work day is done. Let's unwind, and that's to me like that's really cool. But like, it would also be really neat if we all like kind of lived next to each other and stuff, and we were like, we just went over and shared a beer, like King of the Hill. We all just stood on the side of the picket fence and, yep. Yeah.
Yep.
And, that's a show that kept coming to mind with that. And it was like, that really is like a universe where, like, there is no Facebook.
Yeah.
It's like
well,
all
it was
these
before
guys.
all that.
Yeah.
It was in the 90s. So.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just funny to see how society as a whole is just completely...
Because I remember as a kid, and this was in the 80s, my dad, one of his coworkers would come over 2-3 times a week, and they'd play cards.
Yeah.
Like after the day was over, after the work day was over, he'd come over, and they'd all play cards. They'd have chips and have a margarita or two, and cut up and laugh, and then at the end of the night, he'd go home. And that was That was their entertainment.
All right.
Yeah, and that was it too. It was all they needed, and it was
They
awesome.
play hearts or diamonds or hearts or spades or something like that.
Right, or even just good old fashioned poker.
Yeah.
And I've even found a recent enjoyment in that, like family gatherings. Like we've been holding them, around the holiday season, towards around Christmas and things like that, where we would have a substantial amount of our family come over, and 9 times out of 10 we find that our funnest moments are playing a game called BS Bullshit, where you basically, like, the name of the game is, like, you're dealt 7 or so everybody's dealt the deck. You deal the deck out evenly amongst people, and then your goal is, so you start with the person who has ace of spades, and the person left of that goes to 2s. And so the name of the game is to lay down a card and say, I have 1 2,
exactly,
or I have 2 2s, or I have 3 2s, or I have 4 2s.
That's a fun
and then
game,
you call BS on them. But the most fun that we've had is, like, my auntie. She's a horrible poker face. She'll do something stupid when she lays it down. And it's like, no way. And
your grandma would be so ass at that game.
What, my grandma? She kills it. Oh my gosh! I was talking about my auntie.
Yeah, your auntie. I'm
My
sorry.
auntie would be
your
awful.
auntie
She's
is so
awful at
nice.
it.
She's so
But,
too
like,
nice.
Like, dude, it was just sitting here, and it's like, this is the most fun I can say I've probably had, and one of the more memorable moments I've had with my family in my life.
Right.
Besides obviously going to Disneyland, but that's a monument in and of itself. But, like, you know what I mean? It's like one of those things where it's like you just get to sit back and, like, seeing everybody red-faced, tears coming out of their eyes, laughing so hard over the table.
Right. Yeah.
That just... there's nothing like it. I mean, you just can't get anything like that.
And something that I haven't seen, like, since my childhood is, like, an actual, like, gathering, like, of people. And not even just, like, but, like, a full-blown gathering. And there's something about that gathering, like, and the closest thing I see to it is, like, 4th of July. And it's, like, because you're going to have, like, the 2 sweethearts who go out, run off to the, side of the river and are talking to each other.
You got the 2 uncles who are sitting there drinking, talking politics.
Yeah, I mean, then you
that's
got, like,
what we've gotten down to, though, unfortunately, here, is that's all we have left is, like, special events.
Right.
So you'll have 4th of July, you'll have, like, what's coming up, St. Patrick's Day, people will do some stuff together or whatever. You got holidays, and that's all you got left.
Yeah.
But back in the day, just like I said, my dad's coworker, he would come over, and it was during the week on just a regular day. And he'd come hang out. They'd play cards and have fun and cut up and laugh. They were friends.
And do you think maybe... I don't know. It's just it's one of those things, and I think that's why I love, like, Oh Brother Where Art Thou so much, because it kind of shows that, like, it shows that old kind of, like, connection that just people had with, like, their country and the people around them, and all that other just amazing stuff. But, like, that's just one of my fondest, like, memories as a kid was, like, before the smartphone and before all that, like, because I feel like people have traded a lot of that experience. Like, even if you weren't directly in the party, like, something, as I've always said, was I have company come over sometimes, and I said, I love company. I love having company.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not going to say, you guys should spend the night or anything, but
it's
just to have
have
company,
someone over,
like, just talking. That, because, if you've been married or with someone long enough, it's like, well, let's invite someone over. Let's talk with them too.
Yeah.
It's just nice to have company over. Like, my folks back in the day, before they opened the shop and everything, they would have meetings at their house in the morning with their people. But also there was always gatherings and stuff like that. And it was just there was always company.
Yeah.
There's just always company. Like, you could just expect it any day of the week. There would be someone who would want to come over and hang out, and slowly that just faded away.
Yeah.
And it stopped. And it's not because like anything happened with the family or anything. It's just the way the time has turned.
I even remember
tribe has gotten smaller.
Right. And I even remember, like, not even with family, but with friends, when I was roughly, I want to say 12, when I met my stepdad, and he started getting involved in my life. We had Super Bowl parties. I loved them. I mean, Mom was making queso. I mean, we still had it with our family, but we had people bring trays over. I mean, there was just people that I'd never met before. And it was like, this is awesome. I get to meet new people. I get to talk to people. And a year after that, only a few people showed up. A year after that, gone.
Yeah.
Done. Like, it was just with our family. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not complaining about that. But I miss that camaraderie even of like, oh, it's cool to meet new people.
See, I used to do that with our family. We used to do that when I was a kid with our family every Sunday too. So every Sunday we'd either be at my grandma's house or our house, my mom and dad's, and my cousins would come over, and we'd all have like a dinner together. We'd all eat together and have fun, and of course at the end of the night, the other side of the family go home. We do that every week.
Yeah.
We don't do that no more.
Do you know, I don't want to say their names, but it's like Gary and stuff, like over, like that way. What? I don't know. But I remember there was another fella named Mickey that you're familiar with and that sort of thing. And they all gathered like over there at this house on the side of the road. And I don't think you've probably ever been there, but like growing up, like every 4th of July, every New Year's, when the fireworks displays are up on Bolaks, right?
Yeah.
They have a perfect house that's in like the perfect viewing range. And across that whole street, you have people parked and everything and all that.
Yeah,
but this house was like, family friends. And, over there, like when I was a kid, it was like packed, like with people.
Yeah.
And I would like go talk to like new friends like that were my age, like kids of other people. And I'd be like, what's up? And it was fun because all the kids would be doing something and all this and that. And I watched through the years as like last time I went, it was like all the people I recognized. And it was just people who, been there from the beginning, but it was nothing being added, And it's you slowly watch it through the years just kind of like shrink and shrink and shrink. And I think that big reason is like, oh, I got Facebook. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just talk to him. If I want to talk to him, I'll talk to him on Facebook, And that sort of thing. People have traded going out with just like, it's not a big deal,
Yeah.
But like back in the day, it was like, well,
I'll watch the fireworks from my own porch, and I'll post a picture of it.
Yeah, but like like it did make me sad last time I went. I was like, really, I was like, this is what like has come down to society. It's like, and I love seeing those people, but it's like it's not like you're meeting new people. And like back in the day, people would just come in from the street, like, what's up, everybody? I know it's time to start shutting down, but that sort of thing. But we live in a society, as much of a joke as that is. But everyone, thank you for listening. We're going to go ahead and close out. Remember Sasha Kraus. Let her come home safely. Keep your eyes open on the coronavirus. I would suggest getting a mask, some goggles, some gloves, and, of course, antibiotics and everything else. Tylenol. Just be prepared. And remember to be peaceful, live in peace, and,
be social.
Be social.
And don't be a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Yeah. Don't cross Biden with simple questions because he'll just tear you down for some very reason.
Right. But thank you, Lord, for bringing us out here safely. Bless us as we go home tonight, Lord, and bless this weekend, Lord, and let it be safe and let us just follow your will, God. I bring this country up to you, Lord, and I bring all this trial and all this suffering before you, Lord, tonight. I pray that your will be done as it is in heaven, in your righteous holy name. Amen. Let's go ahead and say goodnight, everybody. God bless you all. Thank you for listening to Is Today the Day podcast.